Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to start working on the cylinder. You can see from some of the drawings and dimensions here, this is going to be probably the most complex part to work on. So, although the casting is pretty good, I would think. You can see the parting line here. I don't know how good you could see that. It's not exactly flat. Other side is the same way, the parting line. Now we can do this in the 4-jaw chuck and face it and bore it with a boring bar. I think I'm going to do this in the mill. Going to figure out some sort of way that I could clamp this in the vise and get this as parallel, well, perpendicular as possible. Mill this flat, establish my reference surface, then I could flip it over, rest it on parallels, mill the other side flat, and then from there I could use a boring head, bore this out, and I'll probably just go right over and bring it over and drill and bore the hole for the valve, and then work on the other operations as they come. So the overall length of this is got to be 1 inch and 125 thousandths. So right now I got about 1 inch 260, yeah, just about 260, 262. Okay, so I have a little bit of room to play with. I don't want to, I kind of want to keep this section centered, so I don't want to take too much off of this and not have enough, you know. I kind of want to take equal amounts off of each side, so I'm going to be conscious of that. I'm going to figure out something how we can clamp this up in the milling machine. When I get it all set up, I'll bring you back over there and we can take a look and start milling. Well, alright, here we are again. You see, gave it some thought of how we were going to get this cylinder set up, held, and some sort of accurate way to do it. So maybe better ways to do it. I'm sure there are. This is the best thing I came up with the tools and equipment that I have. So I laid a long parallel down on the bottom of the vise just to give me a surface so I could put this a V-block so it's sitting flat and straight. I clamped the cylinder into the V of the V-block against the movable jaw here, and I set my indicator up. And this is pretty vague. It's a casting, but I had to pick a point, and I picked the top, the two end bands of this casting here, and I set it up so that if you could follow the dial indicator on the two bands, it's right there. So I'm trying to get this surface here perpendicular to the surface here. So I know that this is vertical in line with the spindle, and I'll come across here and I'll mill this off. I think I figured out I'm going to go down to about 62 thousandths from when it starts to touch. That'll leave me about the same, about another 62 thousandths on the other side, and that'll bring me down to the 1.125 overall length later on. As I said before, I kind of want to keep this amount centered. I want to keep these two bands about even, just for the looks of it. Alright, so let me get an end mill in there, and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I got a 3/4 inch end mill in the mill, and I'm going to take down about 62.5, 63 thousandths off of that cylinder. So let's get started. Alright, so, okay, here we are. This is what I got so far. I cleaned up the burr around the edge from after the cutter. Left a little burr hanging off. I cleaned that up with a file. And then I just took some 400 grit sandpaper on my surface plate, and I just polished that up surface a little bit. So I went down about 50 thousandths on this. I should have went down a little bit more. I'm going to put this now back in the vise. This will be resting up down on parallels, and I'll come back and I'll mill this flat here. All in all, I got to come down about 100 thousandths. I think 103 to be exact. So I'll come down about 50 like I did on the other side, and then split the difference. So another 50, that would leave me with another 50, so 75. So 25. So 75 off the top, and I'll come back and I'll take another 25 off the bottom. Okay. Last pass this side.